Hello, this video is for Category 2, Algorithms and Data Structures. The artifact that I have selected here is how much paint is needed. So in this Java program, we had created an algorithm to find out how much paint a user needs based on the height and the width of the wall, and then it would perform calculations to let the user know how much gallons of paint the user would need. In this course, we had an introduction to design, implementation, and understanding computer programs. It was heavily focused on programming as a problem solver technique in business and engineering application. I had to write Java code in a logical manner and organized manner. So here, if you can see, that have met all the coding standards. Here are proper indentions and well-structured, consistent styling throughout. There aren't any unneeded procedures or uncalled variables in here. There's no kind of repetition of the code. It's properly commented, if you can see here, and so let's get started on explaining what the code is doing right here. So here first it starts with the main method. Here we have real numbers such as the float, which would be the variables are initialized to 0 since we would be asking the user what would be their wall height and the wall width. The real number for wall area, this variable is also initialized to 0 since we would be performing calculations to find out what would be the square feet to apply the paint on. Next, here we have control statements. Do this while the height is less than 1. So if I input maybe 0 for the wall height, it is going to let me know that this is not valid and I have to enter the wall height again. The same goes right here. This would be for the wall width. Do this while the wall width is less than 1. Here we can see that we have operations such as assignment. So we have assigned these variables 0. Then there later on we also have other calculations which also uses the operator's assignment. Okay, so once we have all the information that we need from the user, which is the wall height and the width, we will be performing the calculation. The calculation would be wall area is equal to wall height times wall width. So in Java, this is how we print something in the output box. So wall area, and then here is this is going to display the answer right here. So for example, if the wall height is 5 and the width is 5, so it's going to be 5 times 5. The wall area would be 25, and so here it would display wall area 25 square feet. Next calculation which will be performed would be to find the amount of paint in gallons needed to paint the wall. So the gallons paint needed would be equal to wall area. So for example, 25 divided by square feet per gallon. So here we have a final real number which is 350. So that is what it's going to be divided by right here. So one good thing about this arithmetic operation is we're going to be sure that we don't have any 0 as the divisor, since it has already been locked in as 350. Next, here we have a string count operation to output in the display, to display this in the output area. So it's going to display paint needed, and it's going to show for 17 decimal places. It's going to print up to 17 decimal places, and then the gallon. So whatever answer we get right here from this calculation, it's going to be displayed right here up to 17 decimal places. And once that calculation has been done and displayed on the output box, the next calculation what the program would do is find out how much paint was needed. So for example, if the amount of paint needed is 0.01 gallon, therefore it would display the number of cans needed would be 1 can. And if the number of gallon paint needed would be 1.1, it would display that the amount of cans needed would be 2, since 1.1 is greater than 1 and less than 2. So we have to make sure that we be able to fill up the entire wall when we are painting. So here I'm going to go ahead and copy this code and compile it in an online compiler, Java compiler. So here we have it. So I'm going to go ahead and compile, run the code here. So let's see, if I try to put 0 for the height, let's see what does it do. So here we see that it's going to do the control statements. It's going to still ask me for the wall height. So now I would have, maybe I would put in 5 as the wall height. The width, let's put 5 again. So now it is displaying that the wall area is 25 square feet. Paint needed is this much, so 0.071 gallons. As we can see, it is showing 17 decimal places. And then the amount of cans needed to paint is 1. So let's try another example. Maybe let's do 20 this time. 25. So now since it is 1.7 right here, we would be using 2 cans of paint. So for my enhancement plan, what I have wanted to do was not just ask these questions, but increase the complexity. I would want to change this from Java to C++ and increase the complexity of this code. So first, I would like to have the program display maybe like a welcome message for the user. Maybe ask the user for their name and then display welcome the user's name. Then ask the user with their name that, hey, what would be the wall height in feet? So once they enter it in, again using almost the same structures and the controlled operations, we want to make sure that the user enters a number which is a valid number. Okay, so if it is more than 1, then it would prompt to the next question, which would be the wall width. If that also is more than 1, then it would calculate the wall area, and then it would display the amount of paint needed, the cans needed. Then we would want to check what type of paint that the customer the user wants. So here are some of the options that I have in mind that we can ask the user, which would be the paint type flat, matte, eggshell, satin, semi-gloss, and high gloss. So if a user selects either one of these paint type, we can give them an estimate of how much it would cost by doing the calculations. I have already gathered some information on what's like the average cost of either of these paints, and we would make calculation by doing number of cans times the kind of paint that they want. So for example, if the user enters in flat, so for flat, the the rate is, for example, $25. So that would be times 2, and it would display 50, estimate of $50. Sorry, estimate of $50 to get the wall painted. We can even increase the complexity by adding in the labor cost. I'm not sure if I would be able to put in information such as the area that they are living in, but if I do put that in, maybe for example I can add in if the user is from for example Georgia, maybe the rate over there for painting one room is maybe $200. It would give them an estimate that number of the dollar per to get the wall painted is $50 plus the labor cost, which would be $250. So the user would be looking at $250 to paint their wall. So this is what I had in mind, and yeah, thank you very much for listening.